Hello and welcome to another episode of the NBA 2K podcast. I am your host, Rib, and this episode I am having a ProAM / comp player / OVN player, semi-pro player. I don't know what you want to call him. He plays a lot of ProAM. He plays a lot of Team 2K, and I thought it'd be an interesting conversation. I know him personally. He's a buddy, and he's also a support for the NBA 2K Reddit Discord server. I hope you enjoy this conversation. You're going to listen to the ad first. I don't want to put the ad in the middle of us having this conversation, so I'm going to put the ad at the end of this intro, and then the conversation will begin with green ability. I hope you enjoyed. Hey 2K community. Are you a competitive player who likes money? Prove it on Gamer Saloon, the ultimate arena for NBA 2K players. Whether you're a pro or just starting out, Gamer Saloon lets you challenge players from around the world and win real cash prizes. So no more playing 1v1s to brag about it. Now you can get paid for winning. Gamer Saloon offers a seamless platform with various tournaments and head-to-head matches, perfect for every level of player. Listeners of the NBA 2K podcast can sign up today at gamersaloon.com/ribpodcast. All one word, gamersaloon.com/ribpodcast. Link in the description. Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, so we're gonna start, and to start, I'm just gonna ask you to just, we'll keep it 2K related as much as possible, but just like let whoever's listening know like who you are in the 2K community and like what you play in 2K and just a little bit about your 2K background.
Are we live now then?
Yeah, well, I'm recording. We're not live. It's
Yeah,
not. Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
I play on Xbox. I always have. I've been playing 2K for about 5 years now. My gamer tag is Green Ability. I play in a lot of smaller leagues, not really like the UPA leagues, but a lot of Facebook leagues, a lot of like branch out Discord leagues that are ran. I've played Pro-Am competitively, I guess, for 2, 3 years now. Played a lot of lock, a lot of power forward, a lot of defensive positions, but I switched to point guard this year and going into next year with it. So I have a decent understanding of kind of all the roles of the game and what I like to see and don't like to see.
Okay, so that's good. So, not to call anybody out and say like who's good and who's bad, but just like who are some of the names that maybe like if people don't know Green Ability, what are other names that maybe people you faced? It doesn't necessarily mean that you won or you lost against them, but just people that you faced in these Pro-Am games.
Oh, depending on the league and the time of the year, we play a lot of good teams. We've played Joe Knows, we've played Laker fan probably 10 different times. We've played a few 2K leaguers who join friends teams, and the 2K leaguer like Antoine might play PG in the 2K league, but he'll play center against us or something to have a little bit more fun. But we've played a quite a bit of good names.
Okay, so this is actually really interesting because I don't know how many people actually get to know people that like play a bunch of Pro-Am competitively where like money is you got to spend money to go in and you win money, you lose money. I don't know, it's probably a small percentage of people, but um so what
Yeah,
you
it's a super like niche
yeah,
community, if you could say.
you
Yeah,
said you
for sure.
started doing this, you've been doing this for like 3 years now, you said.
Yeah.
So when you started, like how did you start, how did you get into this and why are you doing this, like what made you and get to this point where you're doing this even now, you're playing in August because you just told me you just finished the game.
Yeah. Well, first off, we all started as a group of friends together in 2K19, 2K20, and we just played a lot of Park, and we had no clue how to play fives, and I don't think any of us, like a lot of pro-am players don't play organized basketball, so a lot of us we had to kind of learn fives on the fly through just a lot of practice and getting beat up by other good teams. So we played, a couple thousand rec games in a 2K, and we get a little bit better and we find more people, and um, then you want to go into pro-am, so you play a lot of ranked pro-am and you get better that way, and you start to see again another tier of competition that wasn't in the rec before. Then eventually you see some sort of advertisement on Discord or on Facebook where it's $20 to buy in and you can play for an entire month. And so maybe if you have 8 guys on your roster, you all throw in $2-3 and you get 30 games played and some playoff experience, and you get to actually play against other people that are trying. So they're not going to quit in the middle of the game, and they're going to actually try to win the game because there's money at stake. So you kind of just move up the ranks that way. When you feel like you're ready, you move on to the $50 a team buy-in, to the $100 a team buy-in, and as those pots go up, the competition goes up because you see people spending more and more times in those leagues because it's more worth it for them.
Okay, so a good segue, I guess, is so this was 3 years ago, so that's like what 2K21? Was it like new gen when you started doing this?
Uh, we started more in 22, so we
22.
got
Okay.
we got Pro-Am in 22, 23, and then 24.
So of those 2Ks that you played, and I guess more so with this past one, but what are some of the things that you've been noticing over the last few years playing like the highest level that you can play other than 2K League? What are some things that you've been enjoying and maybe not enjoying, things that haven't changed over the years that you're still thinking about? Like, I'm sure you have a bunch of stuff in your head about things you enjoy and don't enjoy with 2K.
Uh, yeah. So as far as gameplay goes, they do a pretty good job each year of balancing. They did a lot better this year than in previous years of balancing. I like me personally, I like kind of a restrictive builder so that you have to actually put points towards what you want to be good at and then be bad at other parts. And I think that really brings out different types of strategies that teams can use. Because it was that 2K21 next gen where everybody could have basically 90 to 95 stats across the board. And then everybody was dunking and nobody made their guy short and nobody had a tall big because everybody could do everything. And that kind of killed a lot of pro-am experience for a lot of people. Um, I like to see diversity in builds. I like to see diversity in play styles. So it's really boring when, like last year, 5 out was extremely good because people could dunk from the free throw line and there was little you could do to stop it. Uh, Now you have a pretty good balance where you actually have to time the dunk meter. And while some people might say it's a little bit too easy, you still have to time it. And there's a lot of people that can't. The same way you have to time a jumper, and there's a lot of people that can't. Um, so I enjoy the diversity. I enjoy when you get to higher competitions, people are running plays and they're doing practices, and you get to know them as individuals and their play style. And then with getting to know people in the community, there's also that drawback. The part that I don't like about pro-am communities is they're kind of exclusive. They're hard to get into, and then when you get into them, people sometimes might treat you like you don't belong there because you haven't been there for a long time. So there's
Mm.
kind of a higher barrier of entry. But there's a lot of good people you're going to be able to meet to send you the links to the different discords and practices and give you tips. There's a lot of good out there in the community. You kind of just got to find it.
So when you're saying you're speaking, there's a lot of things that you're saying that I think even like the Sim Nation people would agree with. And you being a pro-am player or a comp player, I guess, like you're talking about enjoying variety and people, doing plays and different things. Uh, isn't that more of like a Sim Nation narrative? And like, what do you, if anything, what are your thoughts about like this Sim Nation and comp people going at it? People, Sim Nation saying that the way they're playing is the way to play, and comp players saying that if you want to win games, you got to play the comp way. Like, what are your thoughts about that whole thing, if you even know about it?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the arguments on both sides. Um, when it comes down to it being a video game and you can play it however you want, I do truly think though that once you hit a certain ceiling, if you want to cross that ceiling, there are some what you could call meta animations, right? Or best jump shots and best dribble moves and even all the way down to like the running style and looking at 2K Labs videos of them
Yeah,
testing the running styles. I mean, there's little advantages you could get along the way that help you be a little bit better, and all you have to do is unlock them in the store. So you can play with different animations, but I feel like that's where they're coming from in Sim Nation as well, as they're explaining, look, you don't every point guard doesn't need to be 6'4" with Patty Mills jump shot and Oscar Robertson releases. Um, you can run Kevin Durant fades and you can make your own jump shot and you can do spin jumpers and stuff that just looks
mm,
odd but still wins because they're doing it to have fun and it's a game, right? Could those players by raw skill beat a bunch of better players that use better animations? Absolutely. A lot of times because they can throw them off because the Pro-Am community's seen the same type of offenses for a long time. Uh, 5 out, pick and roll, inside big, shooting big, but you typically have a real point guard with no defense, a two guard with a little bit of defense. So you kind of see similar lineups. So you get used to everything.
have
Sim
you?
Nation comes in and does it differently. And so it kind
Right.
of throws a wrench in a thing. And I think people just don't like change.
I was gonna ask, have you personally played with or against like people you'd be like, okay, that guy is like a Sim Nation type of player, but they're still like decent, like in Pro-Am games I'm talking about. Like, have you seen those people?
Yeah, we play against them more than we play with
Right.
them because that requires a whole, shift of focus for your team's offense and defense. Um,
How
so
do
we
those
play
games
against
go?
them. They typically don't go very well. Um, only because don't get me wrong, I don't think somebody that is like a Sim Nation player can't be very good at the game, but there tends to be a group of people that are attracted to the Sim Nation stuff. Sometimes a little bit older of a player, in their 30s or their 40s instead of like 16. Um, Sometimes you got five friends that all want to shoot and dribble and score, and that's understandable. So you make an offense and you make builds that incorporate that, because we don't want to just have a small point guard and a giant big setting screens. Um, but they generally don't go too well though because those players, like I said, they're intentionally avoiding some advantages they could get that the game gives them so
Hmm.
that they can have more fun. And I mean it works and they win a decent amount, but they don't win very often.
So this is a good segue. Have you looked into the courtside report, the gameplay one?
I have not. Is there
Okay.
something that I needed to check out?
Uh, I mean, so the Pro Play is getting a bunch more animations. It's basically Pro Play 2.0.
Oh,
They're
yes,
adding
yes.
another like 9,000 animations, I think. The dribbling, they're adding a new dribble engine. So,
Hmm.
which 2K didn't have before. I think before it wasn't even an engine. It was just input. Uh, but now there's like a flow, and you can shot cancel now. There's actually a bunch of really cool things you probably would like to know. Because I was gonna ask you how you see this jump from 2K24 to 2K25 going. Because not only that with pro play, but there's gonna be a player to court ratio change. And there's some people
Mm-hmm.
that are saying, oh, the courts are bigger. But the more I look at stuff and the more I read comments, it's people saying actually the player models are going to be smaller. But regardless of whatever it is, the idea here is that there's going to be more space on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And if you being a pro-am player, and people may or may not know this, but there's a lot of zone that's played in higher ranked games because it's easier, I guess. It makes more sense with the steals and whatnot. And with the courts being different or the player models being different now, and there's more spacing, I don't know if a zone is still going to be like the go-to, um, thing that everybody's going to be doing, and I wanted to know your thoughts on that. Uh,
Hmm.
like, how do you think teams are going to be playing in 2K25 if, for example, well, but let's just say if there's more spacing, because I don't know if the courts are actually bigger or if it's actually the player models being smaller. But if you had more spacing to where somebody can't just, you know, defend two people at once in the zone like they do now.
You're asking my thoughts on that, on how the
Yeah,
spacing is going to
yeah,
affect it.
yeah.
So I don't expect it to be a drastic change. It's a needed change because making a taller, longer wingspan build that kind of gives up a little offense capability, like lowering their three ball. You know how they tie the wingspan to three ball, and they
Yep,
used to tie it
yep.
to ball handle. I think that the defensive minded players have always still just chosen that taller wingspan because it helps so much, and the height with the character model helps so much with playing those zones, like you said. So I think it's going to stretch it out a little bit with the court being bigger and or the player being smaller. I think it is going to change offenses a tiny bit, but it's still going to be the offense and the defense is still going to be ran by what the builder looks like and how good builds can be. Like if there's a still a short point guard that has a ton of pass, a ton of speed and ball handle and 99 three-pointer, you're still going to need people to play very high and rotate and step because the farther you can space them out, the more the open the mid-range and the paint gets. So there's going to always need to be some sort of adjustment made. So you won't see no zones, but maybe you'll see a tiny bit less and maybe more point guards putting defense on their build.
Hmm. Okay. So yeah, because I mean, it's been a point of conversation because there's been some people, and I saw this on NBA 2K on the subreddit, that somebody said that there's a lot of people celebrating the fact that there's going to be more spacing on the court. And the guy that made this post said that people don't realize what the ramifications of a court, of there being more space, that people are going to have a harder time. And he's explaining that it's going to be, the gameplay will be, and this is, I'm quoting because I'm reading what he said. PG versus lock, with the PG just trying to cheese a broken dunk meter, and anybody trying to help will be an instant three because the courts are going to be too big to rotate properly, and shooting threes is too easy because everyone can shoot 80% plus. Um, so, he posted a tweet from, or an X post, I don't know what you call him anymore, from Wolf, who's one of the new devs. He was a 2K League player, I think, last year or 2 years
Mm-hmm.
ago, and he joined a dev team last year. And yeah, he said the new player to court ratio in 2K25 allows for some more diverse gameplay. Offensively, you have more room for off ball movement and cuts, and defensively, it's a bit harder to play too. So he made this post, and the top comment is somebody, going back at him saying, then you should rotate if you should help out more. That's how it is in real basketball. So it's why I was asking what you think, because it's obviously going to affect pro-am. I think it seems like it's going to be more than just a little change, but
So if I could comment on the first person, they more
yeah.
so just seem pessimistic about the idea, and maybe they're a little bit of hatred or dislike, I guess, with the game in general right now. Um, because everybody can't shoot 80%. In fact, I don't know a single person that does in any of the leagues that I play in, unless they're cheating, which is very rare. Not only that though, but in theory, what they're saying makes sense. If anybody helps, they have to give up more space from their guy in the corner or their guy at the hashes. And when their wing defender leaves, they're going to immediately pass it to them. That might only be true at the highest level because we don't play this as a job. We don't study film all day. You know, the average player
Yeah.
doesn't study film. They so not only can you not expect them to be at the highest level of their shooting and dribbling and defense, like actual mechanical skill, you also can't expect them to make every pass when somebody leaves, you know, because it's still a 5-on-5 game and there's still a lot of IQ and stuff involved, which if it was as easy as when my guy leaves, pass me the ball, I mean, we would never get any stops in 2K, right? Because it just sounds so easy on paper. But when you actually get into the game and there's pressure involved because you want to win and your win rate is on the line, or maybe you're in a Pro-Am league and money's on the line, it gets a little bit tougher to just pinpoint where all five defenders are and see when they're stepping at the same time that you're dribbling and trying to look for your shot. It's just not really practical to think that everybody's going to be helpless on defense.
Right. Okay, so as a personal opinion for you, let's say the courts are more open. Like, are you going to be happy about that? Is it something you're just going to, adapt to, or is it something you're looking forward to?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it because there's like the power forward position has been the best defender on the court for years now, because they have the ability to combine center style rebounding
Right. Yeah.
with lock and shooting guard style speed, with more steel and taller and longer wingspan, and they also can dunk like a big. I mean, they're the most well-rounded position as long as they don't have any ball handle, which most builds don't at that stage. Those builds have been the best and the most important defenders on the court for years now because they control so much of that space. So if you give them more space to control and simultaneously maybe make their body a little bit smaller, then you're going to find a lot more holes in people's defenses. Absolutely, and I think it does start to look more like real basketball because in real basketball, even the best defenders in the world are leaving people open
Yeah.
10, 20, 30 times a game, you know, and whether or not they make the shots in real life, they shoot 30% to 40% from the three. But that doesn't mean they weren't open all game. That just means, you know, they shoot the best that they can. In a game like 2K where they have to play more space and people can shoot it 50, 60, even maybe even 70%, it is going to force some more pressure on the defense. But it's overall good for the game because people like scoring games a lot more than they like defensive games. In the beginning of this 2K, we had games that were 30 to 40 full time against the top players, the best point guards that shoot the best. We were having games 30 to 40 points. Now we're having games 80 to 90 because we've kind of figured it out.
Right. So it's a good thing we're just talking about offense, and yeah, people do prefer offense. And since you didn't read this courtside report, they do mention defensive movement system updates, I guess. And I don't know how much of what's said is actually like, uh, not that it's not factual, but I don't know how much of an actual improvement it is to where it matters. But like, I'll just tell you what it says here. Like, 2K25
Mhm.
features a brand new defensive cutoff system. So offensive players have long been able to dynamically change direction using their right stick, and savvy defensive players can now do the same in 2K25. So you can use the right stick on defense, so you can control your player and quickly slide laterally into position to cut off an offensive player's attack. So for rim runners or whatever the case. I don't know how
Mhm.
strong that is, but and it goes on to say successfully reading the ball handler and anticipating their drive with a successful cutoff can stonewall the offense or cause them to fumble the ball. And I don't know if it was Mike or Wolf or somebody else tweeted about how um, people should be expecting the ball handler to fumble the ball more on contact. I don't know how true that is, um, but knowing this information, like, what do you think, just based off of what I just said?
So that mechanic, it's pretty on par with 2K, as with mini games. For a mechanic that sounds really impactful to be, I guess you could say, incorrectly weighted. in the
Yeah.
same way that they added right stick ripper this year, and there was the selling point that as long as you guessed the correct ball hand side and you flicked it at the right time, that you're going to get a higher steal rate, but you're going to get more fouls if you do it incorrectly. The problem with it was as soon as you figured out that right timing and you understood the mechanic, now you're doing things that are unrealistic to basketball, like getting 7 or 8 steals in a game. Um, could it be a little bit more effective than, say, your glove badge? Yeah, absolutely, and maybe it should be tuned that way. But as it stands, it was very tough to implement that mechanic correctly because we see defenses. I mean, some games you have 15 steal games against really good guards and
Yeah.
two guards. So this system kind of seems the same to me in the sense that if I can jump in front of you and bump the ball away from you more often in a game, I understand where they're coming from and how that could help the defense. But at the same time, how many times do I get this per game? Like maybe 2 or 3 bump steals on top of my 2 or 3 normal steals on top of maybe one passing lane steal. If we're adding defensive mechanics specifically for turnovers, I just worry about how often they're going to happen.
Right. I mean, they usually they don't as often as they used to, but they might, patch something if something is broken, like people are abusing something, or uh they might do an early September patch, because I think they did that with steals in 2K24 as well, didn't they? I
They
think.
did. They were at a crazy rate, and
Yeah.
now they're at like just a little wild to me.
y-
They
Yeah.
were insane before.
Yeah.
It was almost impossible to dribble the ball, and there was really nothing you could do. You couldn't dribble more in front of them because then you get tired and they steal it. You couldn't dribble less because something in the game activates the right stick ripper when you're standing still. Um, you couldn't just pass the ball all game because then now you spent $50 to $100 on a point guard build with 99 three ball and the most ball handling on the team, and you can't use it. So then you pass it to the next guy, and they lose the ball because they have less ball handle than you. Um, it's been a struggle the whole year to kind of balance that out. They did a patch on it, but I guess it
Yeah.
depends on who you're asking. I think it's still a little bit stronger than the point guards and the shooting guards have a counter to.
Maybe more spacing will help. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Um.
It should, as long as we see benefits to both sides, then I'm okay with it. I,
Yeah.
I think in general, the spacing is a problem and needs to be improved. Yes,
Oh.
unrelated to the defensive mechanics being changed.
I don't know if you know this. The jab step dunks for bigs is gone. You probably, I don't know if you like that or not.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't like how the mechanics of games, especially again at the highest levels, we can do everything correctly and we can rotate on time and we can get in position to stop somebody from dunking, but then they can slide us out of the way with an animation that is, 9 times out of 10, if you look at it, it's a travel, but travels aren't called very
Right.
often in this game. So they can travel with an animation unlocked in the store, which allows them to then dunk at extremely high rates, 80, 90%, and
So
almost never mess up.
that reminds me, because I guess it's another good question. Uh, so dexes and crabs. Do you consider? And I guess the jab step, but the jab step is gone now. Do you consider moves like that to be like stuff that needs to be fixed? Like, or I mean,
Mm,
especially the sliding decks, like, because I see Reddit posts all the time, and Reddit, obviously the community is a little bit more casual. It's not like pro-am players all the time in there, and I see people, like complaining, how are they supposed to defend this? And it's like the clip of, a guy just sliding back into the 3 point line out of nowhere, and people obviously unaware, especially if they're a bit more casual and they're playing rec. Like, what do you think about that? And the crab, I mean, I mean, you can defend the crab sometimes, but not really. Like, what do you think about those moves in the game? And I'm sure there's others that I'm not thinking of right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're not as game breaking as the dunking underneath the basket with the jab
Yeah,
step.
the jab. Yeah,
They're not. I don't think those are on the same level because I think one is an animation where we basically know when you get underneath the basket, there's nothing the defender can do. You've already checked your list. You have the ball, you're standing still, you're not dribbling it, and you're underneath the basket. It's a bucket. Now with the crabs and dexes, you can actually defend it, and if it is harder than just normally dribbling and beating your defender off the dribble, um, there's still options for you. For example, if somebody is trying to crab, which is getting in front of moving past the lockdown and getting the lockdown behind them, um, we can always remind the lockdown to kind of move backwards or angle backwards when they're defending the point guard and make them shoot it in front of them instead of behind them. Um, there's things we can do, right? We can send a lot more double teams at that person so that they can't freely run left, right, up, down to get to the spot that they want. As far as the dexes,
kind of glitchy. I mean,
go ahead. Yeah.
no, I mean, my thought, I don't know how to feel about them because I mean, if you look at the actual animation being played out, your character's it's not walking backwards. It's sliding. It's a full slide. It I don't know. I don't know what to think.
You're talking about for a lockdown perspective or the point guard perspective?
I'm just thinking from the actual like somebody doing the animation like they're going to the basket like they're rim running, but then they dex out back to the 3 point line. The whole slide animation itself, like
Oh,
should that be in the game?
gotcha.
Like is that an okay thing?
I mean, it probably shouldn't be in the game in its current sense visually, but I don't think that's as big of a problem because when you look at actual basketball, um, let's look at Steph Curry, for example. If Steph Curry is able to do these things, then I should probably be able to do them in a game where I'm recreating a Steph Curry type build or a Kyrie Irving or anybody. I should be able to kind of move around a screen and get open off of a little bit of space. The only way that this looks different in 2K is it's a slide animation as opposed to like a quick back pedal or something. And if we could actually see an animation play out where they run faster than their defender, do we then still have a
What's the
problem with it if
badge?
we can see the steps,
The
or is it only
yeah,
because the animation looks fast that we don't like it? Because shooters shoot off ball movement
right.
all the time by getting an inch of space in the NBA.
Yes.
They just don't glitch and slide, right? Because it's not a video game.
Didn't they add a? I'm thinking of the badge. Didn't they add? Is it like Spot Finder or something? Isn't there?
Yes.
Isn't that the badge that's supposed to like kind of imitate, the Curry's, the off-ball shooting?
Yeah. That's it kind of gives your player more of maybe like a very high acceleration takeoff, which
Right.
if used right can definitely catch people sleeping that are watching the ball and not watching their man. It's difficult to defend, but it's not
Mm,
unbeatable in the same way that crabs can be defended and they're not unbeatable. They are effective. I think there should be effective ways to score and effective ways to play defense. I just don't think those fall under the same category as game breaking as the dunk.
right. And before that dunk in 23, it was the what was it? Uh, one hand, one off two, or what was that dunk called that they
Yeah, there
removed?
was quick drops off
Quick,
one,
yes, that one.
and
Yeah,
you can be last year. What were the guards? They were like was last year the game where they were 5'10", 5'11", maybe they were like 6'1", 6'2", and the 6'1" guards had 90 something speed and acceleration. They were and then they were only equipping 60, I think it was 65 driving dunk, and at 65
right.
driving dunk and very
And
low vertical requirement, they could dunk
yeah,
almost from the free throw line.
it's whatever they needed just for that quick drop. Yeah,
Right. It was so animation based that as soon as you hit your attribute threshold, you really didn't need to go much higher than that. You could if you wanted to dunk from beyond the free throw line and have a person in your face. But if you didn't want to do all that and you just wanted to
So
dunk effectively, you only needed about 60 dunk.
you're putting the jab step standard dunk that we have now into that category then. Like,
Um, maybe a little bit closer to that. I still don't like that. I still don't like that the jab step is actually unguardable. I don't know a way that any power forward or any big is guarding it effectively because the only thing you can actually do to guarantee that they don't score right then and there is foul. And that's
yeah.
used quite a
Yeah.
bit because we know that they're going up and we know they're going to score. So should we just trade a foul early on in the shot clock for 2 points and maybe a stop that we can get and then start running out on the fast break? Sometimes it might be worth it for you depending on the time of the game, right?
So
Um, I don't think they're in quite the same category, but the dunking from last year was close. It was close because it was almost unblockable.
so Mike Wang did say that now in 2K25, you're only gonna have a pump fake when you're in the paint, and it's,
Hmm.
like if you're trying to do that jab step, it's just gonna be a pump fake now. So uh,
That's
bigs,
that's beneficial.
yeah.
I don't think there's going to be many people that disagree.
Um, are there any thoughts about 2K24 or even 25? Any maybe hopeful things that you have that we haven't mentioned yet in the last half hour that we've been talking?
Um, I let's see. I very, very briefly touched on the builder. I personally would like a more restricted builder, but that might not be a popular opinion because everybody likes to score and play
Yeah,
defense. Something that absolutely hasn't been mentioned is I think the ranked system in Pro-Am can be tuned a little bit better because you still have hundreds and hundreds of active teams, but the first place team in the world can go against a team that is playing their first game
yeah.
today.
I
I
actually,
don't like
yeah,
that.
I talked about that a couple days ago. I
Yeah,
don't know how that happens, actually. That's
I see very small tweaks in the game um, that can happen. I think maybe they could do a pro-am version similar to Rec, where you walk in and maybe find a squad.
that's how it
That
used to
might not
be.
be a possibility,
That's how
but
it used to be back in the day.
yeah, it's a lot different now. I understand also needing to have five and wanting to play against
Yeah,
competent
yeah,
five because you don't argue as much and people don't just quit games as often.
yeah.
Oh, that's a big thing. I think the ban needs to be removed entirely for quitting games. We've seen that with the, let's call them server problems that 2K seems to always have, or if it's like something
Right.
in the coding, but there's always some kind of animation in a game that sometimes can trigger you to get disconnected. Or there's like in the beginning of the year, I don't know if it's still a thing, but if you plugged in or unplugged your controller while searching for a rec game, you got kicked out of the game. And you would 100% of the time be an AI in your game and your team would have to play without you or quit and get banned. So there's just so many small things that happen with I don't know the net code or whatever you want to call it because I'm not too tech savvy with that stuff where it affects the gameplay negatively and people are getting bans from it and actually can't play the game that they spent money on, right? So it's tough.
I mean, yeah, I think most people would agree with you about the bans, but yeah, I think you're right. With the builder, I think people they want more freedom, even though it might not be the best thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm in favor of the badge system that they have currently. I like that you can have all of the badges that your attributes require because then that makes your attributes actually important and it makes what you do in the game important. Now we could talk about tweaking the values, I guess, but I think overall that's a better system than the systems they've had in the past where you had a certain amount of points. Because some categories needed 40 badge points and some categories needed 6. But yet I can't design my build that way and have it be functional. So I'm in favor of the badge system coming back if it is similar.
um, one last thing for me from this courtside report. that I thought was interesting: custom visual cues. So you know how right now you have your jump, set point, push, and release animation cues? In 2K25, when you go into your jump shot creator and you make your base and you put your releases and your release speed and whatnot, you also get to put your custom jump shot visual cue in that base screen, in that builder screen. So you can customize where to release your shot button or stick if you were going to use the stick. What do you think about that? Because I was thinking this is probably people are going to have some insanely fast shots now, and people are probably going to be able to time them a lot better because they can customize them to their own, whatever feels best for them. That's what I think.
Yeah,
But what do you think?
that's possible. Keep in mind too that uh, the higher, again, it's the same conversation. The higher ceiling that you get, the more we kind of gravitate towards a certain amount of animations.
Mm,
So we don't always find the best players using the absolute fastest jump shots. We use the ones that we find out have the biggest screen window or have the biggest defensive immunity or maybe the tallest
yeah,
height so you could shoot over people. Now those are all different things that we look for, not just jump shot speed. So oh, and side note on that, I think it's pretty clear from 2K Labs and 2K itself that the timing of when you release the X button doesn't change the amount of contest that you get. That's completely visual on your side of the screen. So I don't think shooting like a very early jump shot and shooting that same jump shot with a release cue later is going to lead to different results. It's just going to be what the person wants to see their player do. So I think it's going to give you more freedom, and I see it being for the better. Um, it was pretty restrictive in the sense that you had 4 release timings this year, and most guards shot on release anyways. I don't really know anybody that shoots on jump. They
yeah.
shot on release because it just gave them so much more time to see their jump shot.
So you don't see custom visual cue maybe like I don't know being a big advantage for some people, or you think it's just like a cool new thing they're adding?
I think it's a cool new thing they're
Yeah,
adding
yeah.
because I don't see how if we all have access to the same system that my system can be better
Mm,
than yours. As long as everything else is the same, let's say we found out what the most popular jump shot base is and we blended our releases however we wanted. As long as we're coming in with pretty similar jump shots and ratings and attributes on the build, I don't think my release being early and your release being late is really going to change anything for us. Could it? I hope it makes people shoot better.
yeah.
Because that's always a good thing in 2K is if we can make shooting a little bit easier for most of the player base. I would like that for sure.
Well, I think that's what they're doing. Maybe not with the custom visual cues, but with the pro stick rhythm shooting. So they're like re-adding a new way of shooting with the right stick in the down up motion. But
Hmm.
I'm gonna give you the courtside report so you can look at that. They're also adding new shot timing profiles, like high risk and low risk. So low risk being, people that really can't time their shots and they cannot shoot. If they put low risk and they shoot like wide opens, they might make more of those. But for people like you and I and other people that, shoot decent, you'd want to go with the high risk reward where you still have to time it, but you know, make you'll be able to make difficult shots with an excellent time release. Um, yeah, so I think that's all for the courtside report stuff that I wanted to bring up. You need to, because I mean, I think there are some pretty cool things here. There's some clips in there as well that you could look into. Is there?
Yeah, I've mostly seen some circulating pictures, right?
Uh,
But I haven't read it entirely to
there's
to see what really I need to care about or don't. I've kind of just been looking at what the player base says about it.
mm, okay. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that maybe you want to cover? In, if it's between
Mm,
2K24 or 2K25 or something else involving 2K.
I don't think so. I think we covered a good amount of it. You know, there's a lot of topics that just get talked about too much, whether
Yeah.
it be VC prices or builds or
Uh,
what's most overpowered. You know, we have those
yeah.
conversations a lot, so nobody's foreign to those. But I think we covered a good amount of pro-am content, good amount of animations, and kind of how
Yep.
two different sides of the game are playing it.
All right. So before I turn this off, if you want, let people know, like, if they want to find you, if they want to like talk to you, or watch you play, or links. I'll post whatever you say in the description as well.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I can throw my Twitch stream in there. We play pretty much every night, and it's not for growing channel purposes, but if anybody ever has any questions and wants to get better at Pro-Am, I'm always available to send messages to people and kind of show them maybe discords to get into Pro-Am or resources on how to actually start and get a little bit better and not get beat every game. I'm always available for that year round. So I can post a couple of those things. Otherwise, you can pretty easily find me in the 2K Discord for Reddit, the Reddit 2K Discord.
Right, you're a support. I don't know if you even said that when I asked what you do involving 2K.
I did
Uh,
not. No, I do help moderate the server a little bit though. Yeah.
uh, okay, well, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Okay.